a great draft pick for the Sacramento Kings.
Let's learn more about the newest King. Nice enough to join us. He covers sports for the Providence Journal, and he was also covering the draft. Bill Koch with us. How are you today, Bill?
I'm good, guys. How are you?
We're good. Thank you very much for your time. I know you're busy here. What do you think about Devin Carter's game? What part of his game do you think translates best to the NBA?
Well, the athleticism first. Obviously is able to play and rebound above his size at 6'3". His effort at both ends of the floor, his competitiveness, and also his professionalism, guys. You're talking about a kid who was raised by a father who played 13 years in the league, and there's a lot to be said for habits, daily, weekly, monthly, and everything that led to this point. So for Devin, playing at that level almost feels like it's going to be second nature for him.
Mm-hmm. I was going to ask you, Bill, do you envision him as a guy that can play right away, or is he going to take a little more time seasoning to develop?
Well, he's an older player, has significant college experience, played in a good league in the Big East. I think he's certainly somebody who could play a role off the bench early, someone who could give you some defensive energy at first and, then potentially find his offensive game as he goes. But, just character-wise, I think he'll be willing to do just about whatever Mike Brown asks of him.
Yeah, along those lines, Bill, that brings up something that it seems apparent from what we read about him and from the little that we've seen of him. But I want to ask you, you would know selflessness, which, it's an important part of a good basketball team. Selflessness seems to be one of his strong points. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, he's well-liked by his teammates. He plays hurt. He'll play whatever role you ask. He's good with us in the media. Thoughtful. You ask him a question, he'll answer it. You ask him how he's feeling, he'll lie about it a little bit. He was the focal point for Providence this past year. But, I would say that he's very mature for someone his age and someone who's just coming into the league.
Bill, I saw he averaged 19 points per game last season. Where did he do most of his scoring? Is he a mid-range guy getting to the bucket, knock down the three? Where would you say his points come from mostly?
Made a huge improvement in perimeter shooting, guys. If you look at what he did last year, jumped about 9 or 10 percentage points from three. And, I think that's really what cemented him as a draftable prospect in the first round. The defensive energy was already there. The intangibles were already there. The athleticism, you felt like you knew something about him in that way. But the shooting and being able to spread the floor, I think, that was really important to add to his game this year. And, it just couples with his ability to get to the rim and, defensively, the way he can be disruptive and get out and score in transition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're talking with Bill Koch from the Providence Journal. He's been covering Devin Carter, knows him as well as, few people know him as well as Bill does as a player. I have to ask you about the jump shot. As you pointed out, Bill, his three-point numbers were much improved last year. But just watching some, recently some video of him, that jump shot is a little funky looking. There's a little delay or something. But would you say that the jump shot, despite his improvement, is it maybe fair to say it's kind of still a work in progress?
Yeah, it improved a lot over the course of the year, but you're right. It is unorthodox. It's a slow release. It's a little bit from his chest and not too high. You could see him struggling against, other shooting guards who are 6'6", 6'7" in the NBA who have a couple extra inches on him. I know one game at UConn this year, he's playing up against Steph Castle, who was a top 5 pick by the Spurs. Mm-hmm. And Castle at 6'6" really gave him a hard time with extra size and extra length. So that's something that he's going to have to work on, being a little quicker, shooting off the dribble, shooting off the catch, just getting the shot off. He's definitely going to have to work on that. But he has improved so much shooting in a year. I'm tempted to think ahead to what it's going to look like in 3 or 4 years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Bill, man, it sounds like his work ethic is dynamite, tremendous. He's 6'2" and change without shoes, 6'3" and change with shoes. Any concerns about his size defensively in the NBA? There's been some comps to Drew Holiday, Derek White. I'll throw out Marcus Smart also. What do you make of some of those comps out there defensively?
Well, you always would be concerned if he's playing with another smaller guard. If he's playing with someone a little more length, a little more size, maybe you could hide him a little bit in matchups. But unless you're 6'6", 6'7", in an NBA backcourt these days, you probably will be outsized by at least one of the guys who you're guarding over the course of a game. What he does to counter that is he uses activity, uses his mind. He reads offenses well. You see him, frequently steal the ball, go to the other end for a layup. The other thing is at the combine, his testing numbers were elite. Standing vertical, in terms of speed, just in terms of his athleticism. So I think he makes up a little bit of the gap in that way as well.
Mm-hmm. We're talking again with Bill Koch, Providence Journal. Bill, we found out last night from Monte McNair that apparently Devin Carter has a little bit of a shoulder issue. Well, I shouldn't say a little. We don't know what the extent of it is, but he has a shoulder injury, so his availability for Summer League is in doubt now, and we hadn't heard anything about that. And I don't know if you had. I just wanted to ask, did you have any idea that he's been dealing with a shoulder injury? Do we have any more information on that?
He didn't play the last game of the year. That was in the NIT against Boston College. He was dealing with some ankle issues, some calf issues. He's a max effort guy. The guy who really puts a lot of beating on his body. So that is definitely something that the Kings will need to manage with him, his minutes, his workload. Just his style of play is so physical. It's so based on effort at both ends that they're going to need to work with him in terms of maybe picking his spots a little bit. You don't want to take away one of his strengths, but you also want to set him up where he can play the full 82 for you. So it'll be interesting to see how he balances that and how they balance that.
Hey, Bill, would you say that, the Sacramento Kings now have an East Coast fan base in the city of Providence right now? What's it been like out there in Providence, Friar Nation? Just by social media, it seems like, man, people are excited for this guy to get this opportunity.
Go on social media at your own risk. I would say that to you guys and anybody else. But Providence's fan base is among the most active that you'll see on there. And I think mainly it's because, Rhode Island is such a small state, and Providence for a long time has been sort of the de facto pro franchise in the state. They went to the Final Four in the 70s, and that really captured public imagination. Then they went again in the 80s with Rick Pitino, and that sort of cemented the Friars as the brand in the state. And anytime they have a pro, whether it's Chris Dunn before, or now Devin Carter, guys who are picked high in the draft, there will be considerable interest in following their careers.
Ernie DiGregorio, Marvin Barnes.
Marvin Barnes.
Great, Providence players. I know Monte McNair said last night, Bill, that he was surprised that Devin Carter dropped as far as he did. Not 13 isn't a precipitous drop, but how about you and people in the program? Were they surprised that he fell as far as he did to the Kings' good fortune?
Well, being in the building last night, I think the two surprise picks were Ron Holland at 5 and Zach Edey at 9. I didn't necessarily see either one of those guys in those spots in any mock drafts. And, once that sort of thing happens, I saw Devin Carter as high as 8 to the Bulls, saw him in the lottery, late lottery. Otherwise, I had a pretty good idea that he'd be gone by 15. I felt like that was about as far as he could potentially drop. But you guys have watched the draft for a long time as well. Once you get a pick or two in there that's a little strange, that's a little unexpected, it does sort of alter the balance of the rest of the pick.
Bill Koch joining us here on the Drive, guys, Sactown Sports, 1140. Bill, I'm watching some of his highlights right now, and you're right about his three-point shooting. It seems like, as I'm watching him, how would you gauge his confidence stepping on the floor? I know he competes hard and is a gamer. Does he lack confidence? Sure didn't look like it at the draft and the outfit he was wearing. He owned that thing. How would you say he fits in that way?
It was certainly not something that I could pull off. I would leave that one in the closet. And that goes for most of the players last night. I give them a lot of credit, for just being so confident, having enough swagger to wear whatever you want and feel good in it. That's not necessarily my day-to-day experience. But I would say, the way that he's developed the last 2 years, particularly as an offensive player, and being a Big East Player of the Year this year in a conference that had 8 players selected, he's played against premium competition, and he's done well against it. So you would expect that to continue going forward. He hasn't necessarily had, a point where he has been on a big stage and failed in a certain way, or been humbled in a certain way to the point where he could be shaken. I see him as a guy who has made a very good progression in his career going forward, and I think the best is yet to come for him.
Bill Koch from the Providence Journal. Bill, thank you so much. We know you're super busy. Great insight, which we appreciate very much. Enjoy the weekend. We hope to talk to you again soon.
Guys, thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, Bill.
We'll take a closer look at Devin Carter's jumper when we come back. Also look at why one of Drape's guys, Dalton Connect, why he dropped as far as he did in the draft when we come right back to Sactown Sports.